Hello and welcome to the fourth part. In this part we're going to use levels to correct the colour, and then we're going to start applying our blur effects to the high street. So first thing we need to do is just use a levels adjustment just to correct the colour cast on the image. So to do this, just go Control L or Apple L, and that'll open up the levels dialog window. And what we want to do is just to set the grey point. So click the set grey point pipette, go over to your image, find an area that's grey and just click once, and you'll instantly see the cast of the image change. Here we've got something a little bit warmer than it was before, and if we actually click off the preview, we can see it's got a slight blue cast to the whole of the image. So we click that on and off, and when we're happy we can just click OK, and it'll apply that colour correction to the picture. Now what we want to do is just make a duplicate of the levels layer. We'll actually just double click that and call it background copy, and make a duplicate of that, so we've now got two identical layers. And what we want to do is apply a Gaussian blur of about 10 just to blur out all of the structures and the people within the picture. So go up to Filter, Blur and Gaussian Blur. I've got a radius of 10 pixels and just click OK, and you can see how that's just blurred out all of the fine detail within the picture. With that done, we now want to make our selection of the areas that we want to keep in focus within the image. So over on the left hand tool palette, select the rectangular marquee tool. Shortcut for that is just M, and just click through and you'll go through all of the different marquee tools. And what we want to do is quite simply make a selection on the image, draw the marquee across the screen just to select in all those areas that we want to keep, and then just release. And we've now got our first selection. In the options at the top, make sure you've got the Add to Selection button clicked, and we can now just add to the selection and draw in the rest of our depth of field. And if we want to add anything more to the selection, again all we have to do is just click very quickly, and again we can just add little bits of selection to the image. So now we've made our basic selection, what we want to do is just to feather the edges. So if we go up to Select and Refine Edge, we want a smooth of 0. We're going to increase the feathering to 70 pixels, and contract and expand we've left at 0%. Again, we can switch on the color overlay just to see the effect that that has on the picture. And we can see that from that we're actually blurring into our selection a little bit too much, so we can actually reduce the feather amount. We'll take that to about 50, and now we've got something which looks quite nice, and just click OK, and that will apply the feathering to that selection. Now what we want to do is apply the selection to an adjustment layer. So click on the adjustments layer, down to levels, and then just click OK. And we'll see now that that selection has been applied to adjustment layer mask, and that means that we can go in and readjust the blur and how it affects the picture without actually affecting the image itself. That gives us a lot more flexibility when it comes to applying the blur regions. So at the moment we have mainly black in the layer mask and the white of the selection. What we need to do is just to invert that. So click on the layer mask, go Control I or Apple I on a Mac, and you'll now see that selection has been inverted. Now what we need to do is clip that to the image layer. So drag the adjustment layer below background copy 2. Hold down your Alt key and drag in between the two layers and just click once, and you'll now see that that's clipped the levels adjustment selection to the background copy layer, and you can see the effect that instantly has on the picture. Now what we can do is we can just select our brush tool, and we can go for a black brush. Again, just zoom into 100%, hold down space to move around the image, and we can just check the depth of field. So if we take a look here, we can see that this clock is It's actually out of focus when the depth of field says that it should be in. So what we can do is we can just very quickly just paint over the clock and bring that back into our selection. And then if we just hit X, that'll turn our or flip our colour swatches around, and then we can actually paint into the background and start to remove a few of these background details that shouldn't be in our selection. You start off with about 30%, but when you've got areas that you know should be straight out, adjust it back up to 100, and we can just very quickly paint over those areas. And what you can do is exactly the same thing for the people. So we've got two ladies with prams here. Just flip back to black, and we can just draw those in. Same with the fellow there, and the hat stand. Just the edge detail of some of these market stalls. And basically just go around the image and make sure that everything that should be in focus is in focus, and everything that shouldn't be in focus isn't. So just zoom out, have a look at the effect of that. And what we can now do is just compare the original with the applied depth of field. So you can really see the Toy Town effect starting to happen. So with the adjustments made to the layer mask and the blurring, all we now need to do now is to boost the colour and saturation, and we'll also just give it another tweak of levels just to sort out a few colours and the highlights and shadows. So if we make sure we've clicked onto the background copy layer, the top layer, go up to your adjustment layers, down to hue saturation. I'm just going to boost the saturation up by 30, and that instantly gives it that very colourful sort of Toy Town look. Click OK, and again click back on your adjustment layers, select levels, and what we're going to do is just adjust the mid-tone slider just to lighten the image just slightly. And we just check the shadows and highlights and want to lighten things up a little bit. And when we're happy, we can just click OK. Now to finish off the image, all we need to do is select all of the layers. So if you make sure you've got your top layer selected, hold down the Shift key, hit background copy, and then Control E or Apple E, and that'll flatten all of our adjustment layers down onto the background layer. And if we just compare the original with the adjusted layer, we can see the huge effect that those very sort of minor adjustments have had on the image, converting it from a standard travel high street shop into a really nice, vibrant Toy Town picture.